I feel like people, on the one hand, really want the best for you physically, but then they will say, I hope there's one more concert. I hope she sings again.
I'll sing again. That's for sure.
Tonight, a CBC News exclusive. My conversation with Céline Dion about her battle with a cruel, debilitating disorder.
How much does this hurt physically?
You can break ribs because of the twisting and the spasm.
For the first time, the Canadian superstar is speaking out about what she hid for so many years, the diagnosis that changed her life, altered her voice, but could not change her devotion to her fans.
I probably miss them more than singing itself.
Céline Dion like you have never seen her before.
And Ukraine's desperate efforts to recruit more troops. We go inside a prison to meet the convicts eager to enlist, what they get if they survive the war. The shocking confession of a university attacker.
You know something actually? So, the police can do it. Because it was me.
And what happened inside the classroom before he pulled out a knife and stabbed 3 people.
From CBC News, this is The National with Erica Johnson and Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. We're in Paris tonight on assignment as this city prepares to host the Summer Olympic Games next month. But tonight, our focus is on a Canadian superstar who is adored here in France and right around the world, Céline Dion. And after an exclusive interview with The National, we can finally tell you what's been happening to her. No concerts, no tours, ever since she shocked the world in 2022, revealing she'd been diagnosed with an unusual autoimmune disorder called stiff person syndrome. But beyond that, she's told Canadians almost nothing about her health battle until now. As she prepares for the release of a new documentary, we sat down near her Las Vegas home, her only Canadian interview in English, for a real talk about a real crisis.
I feel like people, on the one hand, really want the best for you physically, but then they will say, I hope there's one more concert. I hope she sings again. What is the weight of that?
Oh, I'll sing again. I'll sing again.
As much a promise to herself as her fans. But Céline Dion wanting to sing is not the same as being able to. She reveals for the first time the extent to which stiff person syndrome, the autoimmune disease that forced her to leave the spotlight, not only affects her voice, but threatens her life.
When you get in spasms so much, well, you don't remember everything. It can last a moment, it can last a few hours. You can break ribs because of the twisting and the spasm.
A global superstar, yes, but also a mom. She has 3 sons. Her twins are just 13. And what we're learning now is that they are being taught how to help Celine.
They know what to do. We have panic buttons. I didn't want my kids to be scared that, are we going to lose our mom too? I was holding on to chairs and tables. I was barely walking.
Maybe you've heard that stiff person syndrome affects 1 in a million people. The thing is, that's not quite right. Céline Dion's doctor says the numbers are more like 2 in 100,000, and they're changing all the time as more people get diagnosed and more people start to understand just what kind of cruel creature this really is.
Why cruel? Well, consider what Celine's doctor, Dr. Amanda Paquette, describes as the triggers setting off the sorts of spasms that have put Celine in hospital.
The triggers that we do see are emotional stress. It could be a positive stress, it could be a negative stress. Other triggers tend to be areas that are very crowded. So patients can have phobias, agoraphobia, so crowded places can trigger spasms. We can see it with light, with noise. So things that stimulate the nervous system.
Crowds, lights, noise, emotion, you're describing everything that has fueled Céline Dion's identity.
Yeah.
That makes her happy.
Yeah.
It's cruel.
Yeah.
Celine Dion says it took her nearly 20 years of being scared and in pain to get a diagnosis.
I've been pristine for 17 years, struggling and finding myself in a black hole. Tell me the truth. Tell me it's over. I'll be fine. Because living in the dark, it's worse than dying.
Now that she has a diagnosis and is developing a way to cope, she's ready to talk. Is asking for understanding as she, like so many people struggling with an illness this severe, learns to live in a body that's turning on her. Nearly 2 decades of illness without an understanding of what was wrong clearly took a toll on Celine Dion. She's not alone. When it comes to rare disorders, reaching a diagnosis can be exceedingly difficult. But as Lauren Pelly shows us, there is hope. The singer's willingness to open up can help those still searching for answers.
I can read your mind, and I know your story.
Now Celine Dion is telling her own story in an exclusive interview with CBC News chief correspondent Adrienne Arsenault. Dion's uphill climb after a devastating diagnosis of stiff person syndrome, a rare and progressive neurological condition.
And I just don't want to collapse and be in a chair for the rest of my life.
We don't understand the underlying pathophysiology.
Dion's doctor told us what researchers do know is there is no cure. Instead, medical teams use immune therapies to combat the disease, while other treatments like physiotherapy and muscle relaxants help manage its grueling symptoms.
But I have to admit, it's been a struggle.
It's painful. When your muscles are not coordinated properly, you're not going to be able to walk.
Stiff person syndrome is one of a long list of debilitating and progressive neurological conditions like epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, Huntington's, Parkinson's, and ALS. This retired neurologist says complex conditions can be tricky to pinpoint and sometimes get misdiagnosed.
Some patients may take years or even a decade before the correct diagnosis is made.
It took Dion nearly 2 decades to get answers, an experience this Toronto resident can relate to.
My hand would just contort into this really kind of crazy position.
Pam Stakopoulos visited more than 8 specialists over 7 years. The cause of her strange symptoms turned out to be multifocal motor neuropathy, a rare disease that causes muscle weakness. She's now grateful that Dion is putting a spotlight on neurological conditions like hers.
Because it makes the rest of the communities feel a little less alone.
Patients and doctors say their hope is that more attention on rare disorders from a Canadian superstar could mean more research, all to find better treatments so sufferers can still talk, walk, and sing. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
So you've only seen part of my conversation with Celine Dion. Tonight in The Breakdown, we'll take you back to Las Vegas, where she opens up about the moment she first knew something was wrong, the painstaking efforts to get a diagnosis, and her remarkable commitment to fight through it all. But for now, let's go to Erica Johnson in Vancouver with tonight's other stories. Erica?
Thanks, Adrienne. We'll see you again in about 20 minutes. Jagmeet Singh is delivering a pointed message to Canadians tonight after reading top-secret documents about foreign interference in this country. He says he's even more alarmed. His impression very different from Green Party leader Elizabeth May, who read the same report earlier this week. Evan Dyer now on what has Singh so concerned.
I am not relieved after reading this report.
Jagmeet Singh, the second opposition leader to read a bombshell report into foreign interference, says he's now more worried than ever.
There are a number of MPs who have knowingly provided help to foreign governments, some to the detriment of Canada and Canadians.
Singh's take is very different from that of Elizabeth May, who said on Tuesday she felt relieved.
For myself, I can say I have no worries about anyone in the House of Commons.
The two leaders read the same report, which alleges parliamentarians helped foreign governments meddle in Canadian politics. May, saying there's no evidence sitting MPs were disloyal to Canada, Singh unwilling to confirm or deny that. Instead, he accused both Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre of a failure of leadership. Trudeau for being slow to act, and Poilievre for not seeking security clearance to find out what's been happening in his own party.
He doesn't want to know about very disturbing allegations directly connected to his party that India, among other countries, were involved in foreign interference in leadership races.
He's not willing to shine light on the issue and to take action against it, and that's a problem.
And the Liberals agree, saying Poilievre could use the knowledge to stop compromised candidates.
In the Conservative caucus, a decision to expel is based on a secret ballot vote of the majority of members of Parliament in that caucus.
That's true, but Poilievre is empowered to refuse to sign a candidate's nomination papers.
And I do not buy his phony excuses.
Jagmeet Singh and Elizabeth May might sound like they read two completely different reports, but in fact they're just giving two very different interpretations of the exact same information that's still not available for the public to draw its own conclusions. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
1 year after a former student's stabbing attack at the University of Waterloo, we're getting a clearer sense of what happened inside the classroom. New video and audio was presented in court this week. Ithel Musa takes us through some of it.
This footage is from a police body camera. It shows the moments after Giovanni Villalba Aliman stabbed 3 people in a University of Waterloo gender studies class. At first, he pretends to be a victim.
So what did the person who stabbed you look like?
I can't remember well. I mean, he was kind of tall.
Even offering a description of the attacker before suddenly dropping the ruse and confessing.
You know something, actually. So, the police can do it. Because it was me. Sorry. Yeah, because I want to be hurt. I can have the knife if you want.
The video was presented in court after Villalba Aliman pleaded guilty to the attack, along with an audio recording of the lecture that day that sheds light on what happened.
Excuse me, is this psychology?
No, but you're welcome. This is gender issues.
For me?
This is gender issues, not psychology at all. So maybe you'll just excuse yourself.
No, actually, I just want to do it.
And then the stabbing begins, all captured on audio, which we are not going to play. The attack lasted about 2 minutes. When police arrived, they found this pride flag on a desk, destroyed by Villalba Aliman. The instructor and 2 students suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Also presented as evidence earlier this month, a so-called manifesto found on his cell phone, railing against wokeness, white genocide, and the blackwashing of history. Villalba Aliman also wrote in defense of a right-wing extremist who killed 77 people in Norway in 2011 and a man who murdered 51 people at 2 Christchurch mosques in New Zealand in 2019, saying neither of them did anything wrong. Villalba Aliman's sentencing will be carried out in October. Ithel Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
In Calgary, 2 workers were seriously hurt trying to repair a water main that broke last week. That means restoring water will take even longer, and residents need to cut back even more.
I know this is inconvenient. I know it's hard to hear that we have to do more, but we simply must.
Calgarians have been asked to reduce their water use by at least 25% or risk running out. Those water restrictions are now expected to continue until the middle of next week. Turning to Italy now, where Justin Trudeau and other G7 leaders are hailing a breakthrough deal to support Ukraine, a $50 billion loan to help the fight against Russia. Ashley Burke now on Canada's contribution.
The message from G7 leaders on day 1, everything's falling into place, with a deal to help Ukraine in a new way. The Prime Minister promising a multi-billion-dollar loan to help Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's ongoing fight against Russia.
Canada is actually the first country to announce $5 billion of that will be a Canadian contribution.
They will help Ukraine not only on the battlefield, also in reconstruction.
Canada's contribution is part of a bigger $50 billion deal agreed to by all G7 leaders.
Today is a truly historic day.
The U.S.-led plan involves using the interest earned on profits from hundreds of billions of dollars of frozen Russian assets as collateral for a loan that would see countries get their money back.
Put that money to work for Ukraine. Another reminder to Putin, we're not backing down.
Russia's foreign ministry immediately fired back, calling it an illegal initiative and warning retaliatory measures will be inevitable and extremely painful. With Russia making gains on the battlefield, experts say Ukrainian troops need a lot more help, including from Canada.
There's also a big gap between what's been committed and what Ukraine actually needs, which is essentially more of everything.
At a meeting of Ukraine's allies in Belgium, Canada's defense minister announced more than 130,000 rounds of small arms ammunition, a remote weapon system, and motors for attack rockets for Ukraine.
Canada is beginning shipments of a new fleet of 50 armored vehicles to Ukraine.
Canada also announced new sanctions against those supplying key technology to help Russia's military. Pope Francis is expected to join G7 leaders for discussions on the dangers of artificial intelligence on Friday. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Bari, Italy.
And as Ukraine struggles on the battlefield, it is now turning to prisons to recruit more troops. The simple offer to thousands of convicts: join the war, get parole when it's over. Our Briar Stewart got access to one prison near Kyiv and a young convict who took the deal.
Just outside of Ukraine's capital city, a medium security penal colony which we were given permission to visit. The hundreds of men serving here are part of a pool of potential new soldiers, like 25-year-old Renat Termagalyev, who is keen to enlist. He's serving a 10-year sentence for murdering his former boss at a construction site. I do what they tell me to do, he said. I can shoot and dig trenches. It doesn't matter. Across Ukraine's sprawling front lines, soldiers are exhausted, units depleted, and despite a recruitment campaign, few civilians are rushing to step in, which is why last month lawmakers passed a bill to try and recruit thousands from prisons like this one.
Around 100 inmates from this prison have already been released and sent to eastern Ukraine, where they're receiving military training, and dozens of others are waiting for their applications to be processed.
We can see of the picture prisoners.
Before they get the green light, there's a brief court hearing where a judge tries to ensure they haven't been pressured into signing up.
I asked some prisoners about this motivation. Some of these tell me that feel some responsibility of our country, of our Ukrainian people.
Earlier in the war, Russia's Wagner mercenary group made a big push to quickly enlist prisoners, promising them a pardon if they survived 6 months of war. Several thousand of them didn't, and the Ukrainian inmates say they're well aware of the risk that lies ahead.
Are you concerned at all that you could be sent to the front with very little training?
I think everything will be okay, he said. But if my destiny is I'll be killed, then so it will be. In Ukraine, inmates who enlist will be required to fight until the war is over. Only then will they be granted parole. Briar Stewart, CBC News, near Kyiv.
An MP is giving few details tonight about a trip that cost taxpayers more than $17,000.
I met with various people.
Who did you meet with?
I had the chance to meet with various people.
The travel expense that is raising questions and eyebrows.
And my exclusive conversation with Céline Dion. How she knew something was wrong.
And music, it started in my voice.
And the overwhelming toll.
When you don't know what's going on, you die a little.
We're back in 2.
The U.S. Supreme Court has unanimously rejected an attempt to deny access to a widely used abortion pill. Mifepristone is used in nearly 2/3 of all abortions in the U.S., but a group of anti-abortion organizations has challenged the FDA's approval of the drug. It's the court's first abortion-related decision in 2 years. NDP MP Niki Ashton is defending herself tonight after CBC News learned that taxpayers paid over $17,000 for a family trip to Quebec. Ashton says the expenses were linked to her role as official languages critic, but as JP Tasker shows us, she didn't provide details.
NDP MP Niki Ashton is rarely on Parliament Hill,
Wickedly wasteful at a time of a climate emergency.
often participating over Zoom. That's allowed under pandemic-era rules that are now permanent.
It's clear the Liberals still don't get it.
But now she's in Ottawa facing pointed questions about travel expenses.
I just want to be clear here. I submitted these claims as any MP does. The House reimbursed me.
While she wasn't in Ottawa for most of the fall sitting in 2022, there was just one trip for 4 days. Ashton did take her partner and their 2 kids to Quebec City and Montreal over the Christmas holidays that year. CBC News found that 2-week trip cost taxpayers more than $17,000. Ashton and her family took part in winter activities. Canada for the win! Like sledding and snow tubing. Ashton says she was there on parliamentary business, meeting with stakeholders about the French language, but won't say exactly who.
I met with various people.
Who did you meet with on your trip, and what did you discuss with them?
I had the chance to meet with various people who are connected to the issue of French language, French culture preservation.
The NDP leader defended Ashton.
I expect all my MPs and all MPs in the House to follow those rules and submit claims. Those claims were submitted and approved.
While other MPs called her out.
Unbelievable. Merry Christmas to Niki Ashton from the Canadian taxpayers.
This advocate for lower taxes says the price tag for Ashton's family trip is an outrage.
Maybe she could have saved taxpayers a whole bunch of money just by picking up the phone, doing this over Zoom, especially she's already doing her parliamentary procedures by Zoom.
This is just the latest parliamentary travel expense that's raised eyebrows. MPs have also been billing for tens of thousands of dollars worth of trips to party conventions. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is demanding the rules be tightened up. JP Tasker, CBC News, Ottawa.
Another American chain is hoping to strike it big north of the border.
The first time I ever stood in line for a new restaurant, actually.
But will Shake Shack serve what Canadians are hungry for?
And my conversation with Céline Dion, the superstar's dreams that started so young.
My dream is to be international star.
They were put on hold by a debilitating illness.
Maybe I'll never sing again.
Her determination to get back on stage, next.
Another popular American brand has just entered Canada's already crowded fast food landscape. Shake Shack is now slinging its pricey upscale burgers in Toronto. But could those higher prices have an impact on its success here? Isha Patel looks into it.
Another popular American chain hopes to shake up fast food in Canada.
I'm just looking forward to trying new food, I guess.
This is like the first time I ever stood in line for a new restaurant, actually.
New York-based Shake Shack will serve up burgers, fries, and milkshakes at its first location in Toronto. Beer and wine are also on the menu, a rare offering here.
Canada has been our most requested country anywhere in the world for the last 7 years.
Starting out as a hot dog cart at Madison Square Park in 2001, Shake Shack's following and menu grew quickly. The $4 billion company now has over 500 locations worldwide. But Canadian customers will have to fork over a little more. Shake Shack's signature burger rings up at $8.49, compared to $6.49 for a Mama Burger at A&W.
All of our ingredients, the way they're sourced, is more like a fine dining restaurant than a quick serve restaurant.
The chain is launching at a time when higher bills may be tough to swallow. Restaurant food prices have jumped 11% in 2 years.
In times of economic uncertainty, there's some shifting going on for sure. Maybe people are going out to the higher end restaurants as much, but the quick service does quite well.
And there's stiff competition. American Blaze Pizza and Chick-fil-A are growing their footprints in Canada, while sandwich joints Jimmy John's and Jersey Mike's are also looking to expand north.
There's an adjustment factor as U.S. brands come into Canada, but overall they usually do quite well.
They do it right. I mean, everyone tries to copy Shake Shack now.
Shake Shack plans to open another 34 locations across the country by 2035. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
If you're looking for At Issue, we will have that for you tomorrow night. But if you can't wait, the conversation is online right now on YouTube and cbcnews.ca/The National. But for now, let's get you back to Adrienne in Paris.
Thanks, Erica. We want to return to our top story, my exclusive conversation with Céline Dion. This is The Breakdown. At the height of her fame, Céline Dion was keeping a devastating secret.
And lying for so many years. I have a tonsillitis, a sinus infection, the lying.
An undiagnosed disorder taking a toll on her health and her unmistakable musical instrument.
So it started in my voice. Things started to get more often, every day, worse.
Now, in a CBC News exclusive, she's speaking out. Céline Dion built her remarkable career on the stage, but now all those lights, those sounds, those crowds can bring health risks. Her personal struggle forced her from the spotlight until now.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? Ready? Is the sound man okay?
This is the Céline Dion we know and love, the consummate performer. When I meet up with her near her home in Las Vegas, the drive is still there, but this isn't a performance.
Thank you very much for saying yes to talk. I really appreciate it.
It's such a pleasure to be able to say, I want to talk. You're going to hear my voice.
Well, your voice has been your conductor, your boss, your whole
Correct.
life. I mean,
I let my vocal cords lead the way because they could.
Where are they taking you now?
I am taking them now. I am in charge. I'm not 27 years old anymore. I'm not 41 either. I'm 56 and very proud to be. I can tell you that, of course, you don't choose what you want in life. When life strikes you, it imposes things on you, you still have a choice. What am I going to say? Look at myself in the mirror and talk to myself and say, what have I done? Why me? Why me? If I ask myself this question today, why it's happening to me? What have I done? Have been a good girl, disciplined. I think I've been a good sister, mother, wife, friend. Is it going to help? What's happening to me that I cannot go on stage and do to my own expectation? Of course, when this whole thing started, if you put yourself in my shoes, I didn't have a diagnose. I was trying to, survive through this. I was trying to be brave because all my life, I wanted to be the best of me.
My dream is to be international star, and to be able to sing all my life.
Please welcome Céline Dion.
She dreamt of it as a child, and then Céline Dion made it all happen. The heady success of stardom, world tours, sold-out crowds. All that changes in 2008 in the middle of her Taking Chances World Tour. Likely no one in the audience realizes what's going on. But something is happening to her prized instrument, and she has no idea why.
I was in Germany, and after breakfast, just like that, I did not see this coming. And I started to feel a spasm, kind of somebody pressing back. So what it does in the vocal cords is that you feel, not well, not normal, the stress, the panic. I started to compensate because I had a show that night.
We get an early glimpse she was going through something in this 2010 documentary called Celine, Through the Eyes of the World.
I don't have a voice. It's weird. It's closing, so I'm really having a hard time right now. How do we do that?
Moments after that exchange, she takes the stage.
Don't wanna be all by myself
C'est fait en tout cas.
Je crois que c'est fait là. It was kind of like a spasmodically, it's like I have a spasm. And I was kind of talking like this, like it was high. I could go down, but if I or yodeling, like ice skating, but on the voice. I went to see every ENT around the world. As many shows as I done, I've seen as many ENT.
In this area here, starting here and here, is where it's starting to hurt a little bit.
At one point, I started to sing and feel that instead of having my ears muffled, so hearing less, I was hearing more. It would be like you would give me 10 dBs more in like a anymore, and it would go poof, like full pin, like a lot. And the eustachian tubes would like at the end like open, and it was not functioning properly. Right. It has to do with nerves, it's muscular, it's movements, repetitive. So when I move my eyebrows constantly, it can give you like a kind of a sinus pressure headache.
My main problem is not that I can't do the highs.
Yeah, it's letting go.
It's like this. I'm spasmed. My eyebrows are spasmed. My ears is spasmed. I'm gonna flip soon. I tell you.
Things started to get more often, every day, worse. The body started to get rigid, not flexible, more spasm, more cramping. I was trying to exercise my body as well a little bit. I cannot flex my toe. If I wanted to eat, my hands would spasm. It was something that was very scary for me because I did not know what was going on.
Over the course of a decade, Celine keeps going, performing hundreds of times at her residency here inside the Caesars Palace Coliseum in Las Vegas. A show so successful, many credit it with turning the whole city's economy and reputation around. Behind the scenes, though, turbulence. Caring for her husband, Rene, as he coped with cancer, then grieving him when he died in 2016, leaving her with 3 young children. On stage, Celine is quietly becoming more and more frightened and frustrated. All while the Vegas lights and aspirations keep getting bigger and brighter.
My voice was skidding all over the place, so I started to do what I could. I started to find other path in my throat. Was that the right thing to do? I don't know. It took a while. It took a long time because I needed to find ways beyond steam and beyond gargle and beyond 2 Advil. What do you want me to do? The show must go on.
And what did you do in those shows? Because
I compensated it. Like I said, a tunnel. I squeezed my vocal cords more. In here, you're supposed to relax. It's supposed to be loose. And I started to tense them. I needed to, instead of having, oh, my love, my darling, as long. I went, oh, my love, my dad. No, I'm okay. It was worse than that because nothing was coming out. So I tensed it up. I made myself a little tunnel, and I went nasal. Oh, my love, my darling, as long. And we lowered the keys of songs. We skip some songs. I'm not doing this one. We'll do this one half a key lower. So there was no bulk. There was no muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And lying for so many years, I have a tonsillitis, a sinus infection, the lying. I've had these things. We get sick too,
Mm-hmm.
okay? We're normal people. We get sick too. But that was far from that. I couldn't live with the lie because it was lying to myself, losing everyone around me.
You talk about finding a way in a journey, but
without being diagnosed through
Right.
this, because this is 17 years ago, and 10 years later, I'm still not knowing what's going on, and I still go on stage, and I still record my albums, and I'm still fine, and I'm still brave, and I'm a mother, and I lose my brother and my mom, and I had cancer at the same time as my husband because I needed to support him. I took a year off to be with him. I wasn't assisting him. I was his nurse for a moment, and I was opening my arms for everybody who was crying the death of my husband.
So how did you make space for yourself to be sad about what was happening?
Good question. It's not the time that I did not allow myself to have that gave me that.
Mm-hmm.
The DNA decided that at one point it's going to happen. But I had to be very brave instead of smart. That was my thing. Because one time I thought, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe I'll never sing again. What am I going to do? Because I've been asked that question before. What are you going to do if you lose your voice, if you can't sing? And I was like, it's never something that crosses your heart or mind. Because I've been pristine for 17 years, struggling and finding myself in a black hole, black hope. I don't want to look in the black and have false hope. Tell me the truth. Tell me it's over. I'll be fine. Because living in the dark, it's worse than dying.
When we come back, Celine gets an answer, a harsh truth.
I wasn't ready to say anything before, but I'm ready now.
And stuns the world by walking away from the stage.
I had to tell my kids, knowing that they lost already a parent, and they don't know if I'm going to die. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to reach out to you.
December 2022. After 17 years of being in the dark about what was happening to her, finally an answer, but a brutal one.
Recently, I've been diagnosed with a very rare neurological disorder called stiff person syndrome.
All the muscle spasms, stiffness, pain, now explained. Celine pulls back from the spotlight to focus on her health and her son's, and finding out how to live with this debilitating disease. She also makes a bold decision. She would let a film crew capture it all. The result is a new documentary, I Am Céline Dion. It is raw, it is personal, and it's gutsy.
I want that motion.
Okay.
There you go. Better. Good. Move this foot slightly in. Right here. Good. Sits right under your hips.
There is the pain of physio, and then there is the catastrophic concern of full-body spasms and seizures that are shocking, agonizing, and have threatened her life. At times, to cope, she's taken as much as 90 milligrams of Valium to get through shows, and that alone could have killed her.
how much does this hurt physically? And I ask that only because to watch you struggle is to sort of vicariously feel your pain because you look like you're in agony. And I don't think people understand enough about this syndrome to
I don't
get
think
it.
so either. I have to agree with you. And that's why I want to be part of the research and to raise awareness. Because when you get in spasms so much, well, you don't remember everything. It can last a moment. It can last a few hours. You can break ribs because of the twisting and the spasm. It's not just like a spasm in the calf in the middle of the night. It's and then it's pretty painful, and you don't remember everything, which is between you and me. For me, it's okay that I don't remember everything, as long as my kids and we train with my kids. They know what to do. We have panic buttons. They know who to call. One calls. The other one gets we all have like, through the whole house, a system of, if I need to be assisted with medicine, we practice, and then, because I don't want them to be scared. I don't want them to be scared.
Even as Celine balances motherhood and her illness, she continues to face the expectations of fans around the world and the pressure few of us can understand to not disappoint.
What's the weight of their expectations, though? Because, yes, I feel like people, on the one hand, really want the best for you physically, but then they will say, I hope there's one more concert. I hope she sings again. What is the weight of that?
Oh, I'll sing again. I'll sing again. That's for sure. The expectation, they deserve to have an expectation. They pay. But if I may say, my own expectation is probably bigger than what they expect from me. When I present the microphone, it's because they're part of me. I was 12 years old when I met them. I probably miss them more than singing itself.
I want you to sing with me, okay? Because you, I knew you were the best!
I'm so sorry you're going through this. It feels unspeakably cruel for this to be happening to you like this.
I appreciate very much your kind words. But I just want you to know that I'm working really, really, really hard in rehabilitation. And I can't wait to go back on stage because this is where I have to be.
Well, people will be waiting, and they will take any version of Céline Dion they can get. Any version at all.
So kind. Thank you so much. Thank you so, so much.
Celine has so much more to say. You can watch the full interview on Céline Dion, I Will Sing Again, right now on CBC Gem, on The National's YouTube page and cbcnews.ca/The National. You can also see it on CBC Friday night at 8 p.m. local, 8:30 in Newfoundland, and this weekend on CBC News Network. Now it's back to Erica in Vancouver for tonight's moment.
Thanks, Adrienne. Next, a tiny Oilers fan and a hospital's big gesture.
It was a bit of a surprise. It overwhelms you a little bit, the support.
Going above and beyond for the newest member of the Oilers squad in our moment. You're looking at baby Mark, born 12 weeks premature. He is undoubtedly small, but hospital staff showed their compassion in a very big way. When nurses learned of his family's love for the Edmonton Oilers, they went all out, and their act of kindness is our moment.
He was born on March 24th. They did an emergency C-section at 26 weeks, 6 days. He was 970 grams, so just a little under a kilo. He was born with just about non-existent lungs, but they kind of pushed his lungs to to get them to grow, right? And the lungs have grown quite a bit. My wife, Katie, she had mentioned to one of the night nurses about being an Oiler fan, and then the next day it was a bit of a surprise. It was all decorated up in Oilers orange and blue. The nurse had hand-drawn a bunch of Oilers, like emblems and different little flags and whatnot, and she managed to find an infant jersey. The hospital staff is amazing, and this isn't the first thing that they've done for us that just made us feel like comfortable, right? It's kind of surreal, really. It overwhelms you a little bit, the support. So it's been nice.
And baby Mark gets his name, of course, from NHL great Mark Messier, who played for the Oilers for 12 seasons. Thank you for being with us. You can watch us anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app or subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Erica Johnson. Take care.